moved into something new. It is in these moments that you must have the wisdom to recognize the shift and the courage to embrace it. When God is leading you into a new season, He begins to stir your spirit. The things that once satisfied you no longer do. The places where you once found comfort now feel restrictive. Conversations that once inspired you now seem empty. It is not that anything is wrong. It is simply that your purpose is calling you forward. Growth demands change, and destiny demands movement. You cannot step into the next level of your assignment while clinging to the familiarity of the past. One of the clearest signs that God is shifting you is when doors begin to close. Opportunities that once flowed easily now dry up. People who once walked with you begin to fade. What used to work suddenly becomes ineffective. This is not rejection, it is redirection. God closes doors not to punish you, but to protect you. He removes certain relationships not because they are bad, but because they have served their purpose. The discomfort you feel is not the end, it is the beginning of something greater. Another sign of divine transition is an unexplainable urgency in your heart. You begin to sense a holy dissatisfaction with where you are. Something within you is restless, as if your spirit is outgrowing your surroundings. This is the call of destiny pulling you forward. God will often allow a divine frustration to arise, because if you become too comfortable where you are, you will never step into where you are meant to be. And then there is the voice of confirmation. God never leads you into a new season without giving you signs. He will place people in your path who speak words that resonate with what He has already whispered in your heart. He will confirm through circumstances, through scripture, through the inner knowing that refuses to be ignored. When God speaks, it may not always make sense to the natural mind, but your spirit will recognize it. And when you know, you must move. The greatest mistake you can make is to resist the season of change because of fear. Fear is the enemy of transition. It will tell you that you are not ready, that you are not qualified, that you do not have enough. But if God is shifting you, it is because He has already equipped you. Every new level of life demands a new version of you. You cannot carry old mindsets into new dimensions. You must be willing to release, to trust, and to walk by faith, not by sight. The wilderness is never the final destination. It is the passageway to the promise. When Israel left Egypt, they could not take the mindset of slavery into the land of abundance. The old must be stripped away so that the new can emerge. If God is leading you into a new season, it is because He is preparing you for something greater than you have ever imagined. This is not the time to hesitate. This is not the time to second guess what you know in your spirit to be true. This is the time to step boldly into what God has already ordained for your life. The shifting may be uncomfortable, but it is necessary. The stretching may be painful, but it is purposeful. Your destiny is too important to be held hostage by your past. Let go. Move forward. Trust the process. God is leading you. He has gone before you. Your next season is waiting. Step into it with faith, with confidence, and with the full assurance that He who began a good work in you will bring it to completion. This is your time. Move. There comes a moment in life when you begin to feel an uneasiness that you cannot quite explain. It is not necessarily a bad feeling, but it is persistent, like a quiet whisper in the depths of your soul that refuses to be ignored. The things that once brought you joy no longer satisfy you in the same way. The places where you once found comfort begin to feel uncomfortable. The conversations that used to engage you now seem dull and unfulfilling. This is not coincidence. This is not just a phase. It is a divine signal that God is leading you into a new season. God never calls a person to remain stagnant. He is always in the process of growth, expansion, and elevation. The discomfort you feel is not there to frustrate you, but to awaken you. Many times, when God wants to shift you, He begins by stirring your spirit. He allows you to feel a holy dissatisfaction with where you are, because if you were completely comfortable, you would never move. If you never outgrew certain situations, you would stay in them longer than you were meant to. Growth requires discomfort. And every new level of life demands a greater version of you. Think about a baby in the womb. As long as the baby has space, it remains at peace. But as it grows, the womb becomes too small to contain it. The space that was once a place of nourishment and safety suddenly becomes too restrictive. The baby begins to feel pressure, pushing, and discomfort, and this signals that it is time for birth. Likewise, when you feel pressure and restlessness in your spirit, it is a sign that God is moving you towards something new. You cannot remain where you are and enter into what God has prepared for you at the same time. Many people misinterpret this divine discomfort. They assume that something is wrong, that they are failing, or that life is working against them. In reality, it is the opposite. When you are being led into a new season, God will begin to separate you from things, people, and places that no longer align with your destiny. The job that once felt like a dream opportunity suddenly becomes frustrating. The friendships that used to be fulfilling begin to feel forced. The routines you used to enjoy now seem empty. These are not coincidences. They are signals. God is creating discomfort so that you do not become too attached to something that was only meant to be temporary. One of the most challenging aspects of divine transitions is that they often require you to let go of what is familiar. The human heart craves stability. It desires predictability and control. But God does not operate within the limitations of human understanding. He does not lead based on comfort. He leads based on purpose. There are times when He will allow you to feel unsettled so that you do not settle in the wrong place. What you call a loss is often God's way of making room for something greater. The story of Elijah and the brook of Cherith is a perfect example. God led Elijah to a place where a brook provided him with water and ravens brought him food. It was a place of provision, safety, and divine care. But one day the brook dried up. Imagine how Elijah must have felt. Confused, uncertain, and perhaps even abandoned. But the drying up of the brook was not a punishment. It was a sign. God was shifting him into a new assignment. And if the brook had never dried up, he might have stayed where he was, instead of moving into the next stage of his calling. If the things that once nourish you are no longer fulfilling, it is time to ask yourself whether God is shifting you. If the brook that once sustained you has dried up, it may be a sign that God is leading you into a new place. The mistake many people make is that they try to restore what God is removing. They try to force doors open that God has closed. They try to hold on to relationships that God is pulling them away from. When you feel divine discomfort, your job is not to resist. It is to discern. Ask God, what are you showing me? What are you preparing me for? Where are you leading me? It takes faith to embrace the unknown. It takes trust to leave behind what is familiar and step into something that has not yet been revealed. But God never calls you without preparing you. He never removes something without the intention of replacing it with something greater. The discomfort is part of the process because transition is never easy. A butterfly does not emerge from the cocoon without struggle. A seed does not break through the soil without pressure. Growth is painful, but it is necessary. Look at the life of Abraham. God called him to leave his father's house, his country, and everything he knew. And he did not even tell him where he was going. He simply said, "Go to the land that I will show you." Abraham had to trust that the discomfort of leaving was worth the promise that awaited him. He had to walk by faith, even when he did not have all the answers. If he had stayed where he was, he would have missed out on the fulfillment of his destiny. You may not have all the details, and that is okay. God does not reveal everything at once because he requires faith. If you knew exactly what was ahead, there would be no need for trust. But trust is the currency of the kingdom. Trust is what unlocks the next level of your life. The discomfort you feel is not to destroy you, it is to prepare you. Your next season requires a new version of you. It requires a shift in your mindset, a change in your environment, and a willingness to release what no longer serves your purpose. Stop trying to make permanent what God only meant to be seasonal. Stop holding on to what he is asking you to let go of. The uneasiness you feel is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of transition. What you are experiencing is the stretching of your spirit. You are outgrowing certain places, certain conversations, and certain mindsets because you are being elevated. This is the time to lean into God like never before. This is the time to be sensitive to his voice, to trust his process, and to embrace the new season he is calling you into. The discomfort is temporary, but the reward is eternal. God is leading you. Move with him. When God is leading you into a new season, he often allows doors to close and relationships to shift. What once worked effortlessly may now seem to be a struggle. The opportunities that once came easily may now feel blocked. It is in these moments that many people panic, wondering if they have done something wrong. But this is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of transition. When a door closes, it is not rejection. It is divine redirection. God does not allow something to be removed from your life unless it is no longer aligned with your destiny. It is human nature to cling to the familiar. When something has been a source of stability for a long time, the thought of losing it can feel unsettling. But not every loss is a setback. Some losses are actually the key to your next breakthrough. God removes things not to hurt you, but to prepare you for what is coming. Imagine a tree in the autumn season. The leaves begin to fall, not because the tree is dying, but because it is preparing for a new cycle of growth. If the tree tried to hold on to its leaves, it would hinder the process that allows new ones to grow. Likewise, when God begins to strip certain things away from your life, it is not to weaken you, but to make room for something better. Some doors close because you have outgrown where you are. God never intended for you to remain in one place forever. He is always calling you to higher levels, deeper understanding, and greater assignments. But sometimes you may become so comfortable in your current season that you do not realize it is time to move. That is when God will begin to shut doors, not as a punishment, but as a way of guiding you forward. What once was a blessing in your life may no longer be suitable for where He is taking you next. One of the clearest signs of a new season is when relationships begin to change. People who once walked with you may start to drift away. Friendships that used to be strong may begin to fade. This can be painful, especially when you do not understand why it is happening. But not everyone is meant to go with you into your next season. Some people were assigned to your past, not your future. Holding on to them can become a weight that slows you down. Jesus himself experienced this in his journey. When it was time for him to step fully into his purpose, even some of his closest disciples struggled to understand. Peter, who had been one of his most loyal followers, tried to discourage him from going to the cross. But Jesus recognized that his destiny required him to move forward, even if those around him did not fully grasp the significance of his mission. In the same way, there will be moments when you have to walk away from familiar places and familiar people because your purpose demands it. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they sense change is trying to force old doors to stay open. They try to hold on to relationships that God is releasing. They attempt to revive opportunities that have expired. They resist the closing of doors because they fear what is on the other side. But faith requires trust. If God is allowing something to end, it is because He has something better prepared. The job you lost, the friendship that faded, the opportunity that passed you by, none of these were accidents. They were part of the divine plan to position you for greater things. Sometimes closed doors are a test of your faith. Will you trust God when things do not go the way you expected? Will you believe that He is working behind the scenes even when you do not see the full picture? The story of Joseph is a perfect example of this. He was sold into slavery by his own brothers, thrown into prison for a crime he did not commit, and forgotten by those he helped. At every stage, it seemed like doors were closing in his life, but in reality, every closed door was leading him closer to his destiny. If he had not been sold into slavery, he would never have ended up in Egypt. If he had not been imprisoned, he would never have met the man who would introduce him to Pharaoh. Every painful moment was actually a step forward. The same is true for you. What looks like rejection today may be the very thing that positions you for your purpose tomorrow. The opportunity that passed you by may have been a distraction that God removed to protect you. The relationship that ended may have been keeping you from stepping into your full potential. The shift you are experiencing is not random. It is strategic. God is closing doors because He sees what you cannot see. A new season requires a new mindset. You cannot step into your next level while clinging to the old. The habits, thought patterns, and attitudes that worked in your past season may not be suitable for where God is taking you. This is why some doors must close, not only externally, but internally. There are mindsets that must be left behind. There are fears that must be released. There are doubts that must be silenced. You cannot take an old mindset into a new season and expect different results. One of the greatest challenges of transition is learning to walk by faith, not by sight. When doors close, there is often a period of uncertainty. You may not immediately see where God is leading you. The next step may not be clear. This is where trust becomes essential. Just as a seed must be buried in darkness before it grows, sometimes you must walk through seasons where you do not fully understand what God is doing. But even in those moments, He is working. The key is to surrender. Instead of fighting against the change, embrace it. Instead of questioning why a door has closed, ask, what new opportunity is being prepared? Instead of mourning what was lost, anticipate what is coming. Every closed door is an invitation to something greater. Every shift is a sign that God is moving. God's plan for your life is not one of stagnation. He is a God of growth, expansion, and new beginnings. If a door has closed, it is because it is time to move forward. If relationships have shifted, it is because you are being positioned for your next assignments. The question is not whether God is leading you. The question is whether you will trust Him enough to follow. There are moments in life when something deep within you begins to shift. It is not something you can always explain, but you feel it. A restlessness, a stirring, an inner nudge that refuses to be ignored. You wake up in the morning and the things that once excited you no longer bring the same joy. The conversations that once engaged you now feel empty. The places where you used to find comfort now seem unfamiliar. This is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that God is leading you into a new season. When God begins to transition you, He places a divine urgency in your spirit. It is a call to more, a call to step into something greater than where you are now. Many people experience this shift, but few respond to it. They dismiss it as mere emotions, ignoring the signs that their current season is coming to an end. But when God is moving, the worst thing you can do is remain stuck in a place where you no longer belong. The longer you ignore the pull, the more uncomfortable you become. What was once easy becomes difficult. What once fit your life perfectly now feels like a weight holding you down. It is God's way of telling you, I have more for you, but you must be willing to move. God never pushes you into your next season. He calls you into it. He speaks in whispers, nudging you gently toward your destiny. But if you refuse to listen, He will allow discomfort to grow until you have no choice but to move. Many times people pray for change, but when it comes, they resist it. They want the blessing of the new season without the sacrifice of leaving the old one behind. But every new level in life requires you to release something. You cannot carry old habits, old mindsets, and old ways of thinking into the new place God has for you. The struggle comes when what is familiar feels safer than what is ahead. It is human nature to resist the unknown. Even when we know something is no longer working, we hesitate to leave because at least it is predictable. But God is not found in places of stagnation. He is found in movement, in growth, in the stretching that comes with stepping into the unknown. Abraham was called to leave his home, his country, and everything he had ever known to follow a promise he could not yet see. God did not show him the entire picture. He simply said, go to the land I will show you. Abraham had to trust the voice of God more than he trusted his comfort. He had to walk by faith, not by sight. And because he obeyed, he stepped into a destiny greater than anything he could have imagined. If you are feeling a pull in your spirit, it is not by accident. The dreams that have been stirring in your heart, the desire for more, the sense that you were created for something greater. All of these are signs that God is leading you forward. But He will not force you to step into your new season. You must choose to obey. And obedience always comes with sacrifice. Sometimes it means leaving behind people who are not meant to go where you are going. Other times it means giving up a position, a job, or an opportunity that seems good but is no longer aligned with God's plan for your life. The cost of transition is high, but the cost of staying where you do not belong is even higher. Every great move of God in your life will require faith. You may not see the full picture yet. You may not know all the details. But God never calls you without first preparing you. What looks like uncertainty to you is clarity to Him. What seems like risk to you is already guaranteed in His plan. The same God who placed the dream inside of you is the one who will bring it to pass. But He requires your trust. He requires you to move even when you do not have all the answers. He requires you to take the first step, believing that He will guide your feet. One of the biggest barriers to stepping into a new season is fear. Fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of leaving behind what is familiar. But fear is not a sign that you should stay where you are. It is a sign that you need to trust God more. Fear will always try to keep you in places that feel safe. But purpose is not found in safety. It is found in obedience. Peter only walked on water because he was willing to step out of the boat. If he had stayed where it was safe, he would have never experienced the miraculous. The same is true for you. If you want to step into the greater things God has for you, you must be willing to step beyond what is comfortable. God is calling you higher, but He will not drag you there. He is waiting for you to take action. The longer you delay, the longer you prolong the blessings He has prepared for you. The uneasiness in your spirit will not go away until you respond to His call. The things that once satisfied you will continue to feel empty because you have outgrown them. The situations that once felt comfortable will begin to feel like a burden because you are not meant to stay there. The more you resist, the harder it will become. But the moment you surrender, the moment you say, God, I trust you, everything will begin to shift. Your next season is waiting for you. The doors are already prepared. The opportunities are already set in motion. But you must be willing to move. You must be willing to leave behind what no longer serves you. You must be willing to walk by faith, even when you cannot yet see what is ahead. Do not let fear keep you in a place that no longer aligns with your destiny. Do not let comfort rob you of your calling. Do not let uncertainty keep you from stepping into everything God has prepared for you. When God is leading you, He goes before you. He has already made the way. The path may not be fully visible, but He sees the end from the beginning. What you are afraid of today will become a testimony tomorrow. What seems uncertain now will make perfect sense in time. The only thing you need to do is trust Him. Trust the process, trust the timing, and trust that He is leading you into something greater than you can imagine. The shift you feel is not random, it is divine. God is calling you forward. The question is, will you follow? When God is leading you into a new season, one of the most evident signs is that you begin to lose interest in things that once captivated you. The activities, relationships, and routines that used to excite you now seem dull and unfulfilling. It is not that you have become ungrateful. It is that your spirit is evolving. God is preparing you for something greater, and what once satisfied you is no longer enough. You are being stretched beyond your current level because He does not want you to settle for anything less than His best. This internal shift is often misunderstood. Many people try to force themselves to stay engaged in places they have already outgrown. They convince themselves that they should still feel the same excitement, the same passion, the same motivation. But when God is calling you higher, He will not allow you to remain comfortable in what is beneath your potential. He will stir your heart in such a way that even the things that once seemed significant begin to feel small. This is not a sign of ingratitude. It is a divine invitation. God knows that if you still found fulfillment in your old season, you would never leave it. That is why He allows certain things to become uncomfortable, unfulfilling, and even frustrating. When He is calling you into something new, He has to break your attachment to the old. You may try to revive your interest in what used to excite you, but deep down you will sense that it is no longer working. No matter how much you try to force yourself to find joy in it, something inside of you knows that you are meant for more. This transition can be confusing because it feels like you are losing your passion. You may wonder, what is wrong with me? Why do I feel disconnected from what I once loved? But the issue is not that your passion is gone. It's that it is being redirected. Your passion is shifting because your purpose is shifting. God is aligning your heart with what He has prepared for you next. He is making room for a greater assignment. And He does not want you to be so tied to the past that you miss your future. Think of an eagle teaching its young to fly. The mother eagle begins to remove the soft feathers from the nest, making it increasingly uncomfortable. What was once a place of safety and warmth becomes a place of discomfort. The eaglet has no choice but to spread its wings and take flight. If the nest remained comfortable, the eaglet would never leave. In the same way, God removes the comfort from your old season so that you will not remain where you no longer belong. He wants you to rise, to expand, to step into the fullness of your destiny. Yet many people resist this shift. They try to hold on to what is familiar even when it no longer fits. They convince themselves that they can make the old season work if they just try harder. They settle for mediocrity because it feels safer than the unknown. But God is not a God of stagnation. He is a God of progress, expansion, and transformation. If you ignore His nudging, He will continue to make the old season uncomfortable until you finally release it. When God redirects your passion, He is also redirecting your focus.